to Sagas Sass, Season 4, brought to you by Geek Saga Entertainment. I'm Tara, along with fellow hosts Nick and Jonathan. Nick is back. Holla, y'all.
Yay!
This episode will cover Glory, Part 3 of Morningstar, the third installment in Pierce Brown's Red Rising saga.
Please note that if you are watching this as a webcast, there is a chance that you will hear some spoilers for later books in the Red Rising series during our live webcast. However, if you're listening to this as a podcast, any spoilery bits have been edited out. If you're watching live, join us in the chat, or after the fact, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Sagas and Sass, or email us at sagasandsass@gmail.com to continue the conversation.
Also, I'm going to apologize for having to move my. I'm working on a laptop this week, y'all. And it's on a stand, and there's something missing from the stand, so it keeps sliding. Additionally, all right, wait, hold on. Additionally, please note that the views expressed by the hosts are those of us as individuals and do not necessarily represent the show as a whole. And don't forget to check out our Patreon. With 10 tiers ranging from $1 a month to $40 a month, it offers tons of ways to support us and receive some great perks in return, including early access to the podcast versions of these episodes, as well as timed patron-only access to, wow, I can talk, as well as timed patron only access to these live videos, which will only be available to our patrons for the month after they've finished airing. And you can find us at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment. And with that, it is time to dive into chapters 35 through 39 of Morningstar.
In the wake of Ragnar's death and winning Sephi to their cause, Mustang organizes a massive movement filling 1,000 ships with obsidians. This includes families who will be dispersed to their new homes underground and warriors who will be sent to the military ships in orbit. Once this is accomplished, Darrow, Mustang, and Holiday return to Tinos with Cassius as their prisoner, Sephi and her Valkyrie as their allies, and Ragnar's body. Pause for emotion. Severo and the Howlers greet them, with Severo producing Ragnar's bear cloak and announcing himself as Ragnar's blood brother before asking permission to drape his body with the cloak. In a promising show of generosity, Sephi passes stewardship of her brother's body to Severo, and he and Darrow hold Wow, that was weird. They hold vigil over it, discussing the past, Darrow's regret over allowing Ragnar to fight Aja, and what their lives might have been like if they had been regular people. When Darrow finally leaves, he runs into Victra on his way out, and after telling him that Mustang and Dancer have already been at each other's throats, she goes to join Severo because, duh, if Victra and Severo haven't been banging yet, they're sure as hell about to be, and we are here for it. Darrow, for his part, is off to find Mustang, who happens to be hanging out in the commissary with his uncle Nerl, Kavix, and Daxo Telemanos, a bunch of pit vipers, and Darrow's brother and mother. Darrow's kind of shocked and maybe a little worried at seeing the two halves of his life collide without his supervision. And let's be real, it probably doesn't help that when he walked in, Mustang was kind of telling embarrassing stories about their time at the Institute. Soon, though, his mother announces that it's time for bed and figuratively drags Kieran, Nerl, and the Pit Vipers along with her, leaving Darrow, Mustang, and the Telemanoses to talk shop. Apparently, the current plan is to use claw drills to allow the Obsidians to invade key Martian cities, but they don't agree with this, both because no matter that Sephi is Ragnar's sister, they don't trust the Obsidians, and Mustang also insists that the Jackal will smell this plan a mile away.
The other issue is their need for assurance that Darrow isn't trying to begin a dictatorship or a full democracy with a K. But before they can get too deep into that conversation, Holiday shows up to let Darrow know that Cassius is asking for him and claiming that he has information. So Darrow heads off to the infirmary, where he and Cassius kick off their conversation by speaking of honor and duty, blah, 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 until Darrow eventually insists that they get down to brass tacks. So Cassius asks him why he thinks the Sovereign was suing for peace. And it turns out that while thanks to Mustang, Darrow knows a litany of reasons as to why the Sovereign wanted to remove the Jackal from power, she in fact made Cassius hold back the most important piece of intel they had. because it turns out that not only has the jackal been stockpiling helium, he also robbed a warehouse on the an asteroid located between the core and the rim. A warehouse that contained 500 world-killing nuclear warheads, for fuck's sake. Obviously, a meeting is called so that Darrow can bring this extremely beyond worrisome news to everyone's attention, but the leaders of the rebellion end up questioning whether Cassius is telling the truth, with their argument punctuated by Severo's constant reminders that they could just torture the truth out of Cassius, as well as some discussion as to whether or not Mustang belongs in their war councils. Though that point seems to fall flat considering, all of the other shit they have going on. Anyway, they eventually come to the conclusion that Cassius must be telling the truth, thanks to Victra remembering a passing comment she once heard from her mother that clearly referred to the nukes in question. But that's not the end of the meeting, because next up, Darrow has to convince them that the Claudrill plan isn't going to work, and that instead, they should create their own paradigm. One the Jackal won't expect, of course. Basically, Darrow wants them to leave Mars. But that's not all. His new and improved plan is for them to head out to the rim to smash the Sword Armada. And so the Red Armada is off to war, leading to tearful goodbyes between Darrow and Dancer, and strangely enough, between Mustang and Deanna, Darrow's mother, as well. As Darrow boards his shuttle with his friends, Dancer calls out to him. And when Darrow turns, he sees a sea of people, blues, reds, greens, grays, obsidians, raising their fists in solidarity with him and with each other. Dancer bellows, "Break the chains!" And Darrow raises his own fist in salute before stepping into the shuttle to sail off to war. Again. So, going back to Ragnar and his death and them bringing his body back with them and having their vigil over it, Darrow is blaming himself for Ragnar's death, saying it was his shit plan to take Aja out. And Severo reminds him that Aja killed Quinn and helped kill Fitchner, as well as dozens of sons, while Darrow was locked up. And he says, "Jonathan, this is you."
Wasn't your bad. You'd have lost me too. If I were there, even Rags couldn't have kept me from having a go at her. Always trying to protect us, the shield of Tynos. He loved the name. I think he'd always thought himself a blade before he met us. We let him be what he wanted, a protector.
And I know both of you weren't there 2 weeks ago when we discussed part 2 of Morningstar when Ragnar died. But just since you weren't there, all the feelings about losing Ragnar, honestly.
That was super sad. I loved Ragnar.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody not like Ragnar? I feel like I have never heard of anybody disliking him. And his death was, in my opinion, even though some people 2 weeks ago sort of disagreed with me, timed and written in such a way that it was so emotionally impactful.
It was. I don't usually cry during books, but I got and I didn't cry this. I actually got angry during when he died.
Hey, that's an emotion. It's okay. And everyone should have some emotion.
Because actually, I sort of agree with Darrow. His plan was terrible, and he's like, "Can you take him?" And the guys, what's Ragnar gonna say? No. Of course, he was gonna take a shot at her, even though it was a stupid ass plan. So anyway, vent over, since I wasn't here for that discussion.
No, that's fine. I mean, and also just everything about Ragnar's body returning with them, and Sephi, Severo coming to them and saying, I was his blood. Wow, I can talk. I was his blood brother, and I just want to place his cloak that he wore when he fought with us on him. Ugh, I'm already getting emotional. I can't. And then Sephi giving over stewardship of Ragnar's body to these people who have been his companions, his friends, his brothers for, years now, was just, it was so good. It was so good. Because she didn't have
Yeah.
to do that. She could have been, like Darrow said, she could have jealously, like, guarded his body as her own. They could have left it in the ice, honestly. But she knew that they it's okay. It happens all the time. She knew that they needed closure. So it was very, all of it was very sweet, and I loved it very much. So sad that we've lost him. But again, Severo's point about how he was the shield of Tinos, he was made into, I mean, he was a slave who was made into basically like a pit fighter, like very much I'm thinking like Dance with Dragons Marine
Yep.
situation, and then
Sprung Belwas.
and then he got to be something more than that. He got to protect people, and not just the people he cared about, but all of these refugees that are living in Tinos. He got to help and protect them. They gave him that name, and I'm just never going to not be emotional about it. Or probably ever stop talking about Ragnar's death being the saddest in the series so far. So, all that said, moving on to Cassius, who is still alive, and Severo.
Oh.
Like, Severo, and I think all of us will want to know why Darrow is keeping him alive.
And Darrow says, maybe I think the world would be a better place with him in it. So many people have used him, lied to him, betrayed him. All of that has defined him. It's not fair. I want him to have a chance to decide for himself what kind of person he wants to be.
None of us get to be what we want to be, Severo mutters. At least not for long.
Isn't that why we fight? Isn't that what you just said about Ragnar? He was made a blade, but we gave him a chance to be a shield. Cassius deserves that same chance.
Granted, Severo isn't wrong when he says that someone in Tinos is going to try to pop Cassius. And same goes for Mustang. Like, this place is a what's the term I'm looking for? It's a
powder keg?
Yes, thank you. It's a powder keg, and even though both Mustang is being guarded by Uncle Nero's pit vipers, and which is by the way, the B squad, beyond, like, just beneath the Howlers, and Cassius is being guarded and also in the infirmary and everything. Like, this is a bad situation, like a bad place to be keeping this guy. I get that he had been severely injured, but he should be, like, locked up in a very safe cell right now.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, if they want to keep him alive or feel the need to keep him alive, Darrow, then he should have his own guards, his own cell, his own doctor. I mean, to be honest, it's not just the Reds or the Obsidians or whatever. It's like, how do you know your doctor isn't going to want to take care of the situation? So, I don't know. This whole thing seems very stupid to me, but
hey, it pays off.
Yeah. Because they do get that information. So,
right.
Before Darrow goes to see Cassius, Darrow and Severo talk about what might have been if they had been regular people. But Darrow knows that while he might have loved... Your dog is... Everybody meet Nick's dog. What's your dog's name, Nick?
That's Sebastian. He gets very upset when people go outside the house, even if they are not anywhere near the house. And so apparently there are people nearby. 1 minute.
Okay, yeah. Well, Nick's got some quotes to read, so we'll pause for a few seconds. But so anyway, Darrow and Severo talk about what might have been had they been regular people. And while Darrow knows that he might have loved Io more as time went on, Io herself would have despised their small life. So when Darrow asks himself if he was given the chance to go back and to be blind to all of this, would he? He thinks,
All this time I thought this was for Io. I drove straight on like an arrow because I had that one perfect idea in my head. She wanted this. I loved her, so I'll make her dream real. But that's bullshit. I was living half a bloody damn life, making an idol out of a woman, making her a martyr, something instead of a someone, pretending she was perfect. She wouldn't have wanted that. And when I looked out at the hollows, I just knew. I mean, I guess I realized as I was talking that justice isn't about fixing the past, it's about fixing the future. We're not fighting for the dead, we're fighting for the living and for those who aren't yet born, for a chance to have children. That's what has to come after this. Otherwise, what's the point? You and I keep looking for light in the darkness, expecting it to appear, but it already has. We're it, boyo. Broken and cracked and stupid as we are, we're the light, and we're spreading.
man, Darrow does know how to give a good speech.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's like the only one that ever gets to give these just epic talks and speeches, and that's not really fair. I mean, sometimes obviously Severo says some pithy stuff, but it's mostly hilarious and gross. Mustang, of course, has her moments because we all freaking love Mustang. She's the best. But Darrow's the only one that gets to just wax on being just so eloquent. And I do really love that though. Like, you know, we keep expecting for this light in the darkness to appear, but we're it. We're broken, we're cracked, we're stupid, but we're the light and we're spreading. Now, that's kind of, in a way, neither here nor there, because as much as Arrow might think that Mustang and the Telemanuses are kind of like, dude, we don't really think that this plan that's happening, that's going on right now, being set forth by Dancer is good. And they approached Darrow about it. And wow, do we learn even more about how off the Jackal is. And Mustang kind of goes into the story about how when they were children, the Jackal would create mazes or puzzles for her. And when she completed them, when she won, he would congratulate her to her face. But it turns out that once he was alone, he would punish himself for losing to her. And she saw this happen and she tried to pretend she couldn't finish the next one. But he made her finish it and then didn't come back to her with another one until he had created, I don't know if it was a puzzle or a maze, I think it was a maze, until he created something that she could not solve. Like, he did not stop working on this and did not invite her to play his little games again until he had created this. And she tells Darrow that the Jackal will never forgive them beating him at the Institute. He will never forget literally every plan they've already used. And they've already used the claw drills through the surface thing when they got Darrow from the Jackal's home in Attica. So I mean, like, we knew the Jackal was something else, but Mustang's insight into how he was as a child and these things that he used to do were just oof, like, please listen to her, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And also, I mean, Mustang's very smart. So part of me wonders how long it took the Jackal to come up with something that she couldn't solve.
Probably a really long time.
So anyway, that's why they're like, please don't do the claw drills because he's totally gonna expect those shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then Darrow finally goes to meet with Cassius. Darrow and Cassius sitting in a tree. Okay. Oh, okay. No, it's not quite like that. But Darrow
Like,
does go to
only
visit.
one step away.
Yeah. Darrow is yeah, Darrow has a thing for Cassius. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I hear the way Darrow talks about Cassius's looks and everything. I'm like, are you sure you're entirely straight, Darrow? Like, are you sure
I
this
don't
isn't
think
just
he
like?
is.
I don't think like is this just your red upbringing where this was such a patriarchal society that you believe that there's no such thing as not being straight? Because the way he thinks about Cassius's looks is like he's an Adonis, he's a god, his dimpled chin.
I never thought of that.
Seriously,
He goes really hard on it.
his coiled golden hair, like
Yeah.
I see what you're thinking here,
I think
Darrow.
it's some heteronormative bullshit,
Yeah.
and that if Darrow was able to be raised in more of had been raised as a gold, that he might not have such a.
He would have been more Tactus or Roke in that regard and less Stickler.
More like Roke, I would think.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean all the aspects of their personalities. I mean just being, not being straight.
Yes.
But anyway, so it's not, they don't quite, sit in a tree and kiss, whatever. But Darrow does go to visit Cassius, and he's thinking about why he saved his former friend.
I could aspire to notions of valor and honor, but the deep spine reason is I desperately want him to be a friend again. I crave his approval. Does that make me a fool, disloyal? Is it the guilt speaking? Is it his magnetism? Or is it that vain part of me that just wants to be loved by people I respect? And I do respect him. He has honor, a corrupted sort, but true honor nonetheless.
Okay, first of all, like, sigh. Darrow. The honor, a corrupted sort, but true honor nonetheless. That's like saying, like, this person that I know is generally a good person until they're bad, but they're still a good person, right? Like,
right.
Ugh.
Well,
but again, we get into like, is it his magnetism?
All right, since we're always comparing this to A Song of Ice and Fire, is he Jaime Lannister or is he Eddard Stark or neither?
Who, Darrow or?
Well, Cassius.
Oh, Cassius.
Well, Cassius is clearly more Jaime.
I would say technically Jaime, but I think that's a. I don't know that there's anybody. It's hard to compare characters in the Red Rising saga, at least at this point. I think most of them, particularly the main ones, to Song of Ice and Fire characters, because, like, here's the thing, like, what we know of Jaime, yes, he had his honor and everything, but Cassius is. He's very set in his ways, and I don't think he's a good person. And Darrow is just so like his magnetism. I just want to be loved by him. What is that? Wait, what is that song? I just want to be loved by you. You know what I'm talking about, right? There's a song. It's like, I just want to be loved by you. That's Darrow's song to Cash. I don't know if I'm singing it right because I can't remember the tune, but
yeah, but I mean, Jaime is full of himself, also, at least in the first books, and
I mean, I get the Cassius.
He's not exactly a good person either.
I get the Cassius is full of himself, but I don't know. I think it's probably the best comparison that exists, but I don't know that it's a very good one either. But to be fair, Cassius does tell Darrow about the Jackal stockpiling nuclear weapons. Like 500 of them. And they're not small ones either. They're not like, I'm going to, shoot this at a ship and it's going to kill the ship. These are like, they're a single one could be world killing. And the fact that, like, I mean, obviously I understand why the Sovereign insisted that this was kept back during their negotiations because, like, whoa, big, scary, and also it means that they have so much less leeway than
Right.
they're playing at. But whoa, like, this is so dangerous. Oh my god, like, this isn't just the Rising that is in danger. This is like your world too, because you know that he's making a play to be sovereign himself.
Mm-hmm.
You stupid bitch.
So is it bad
You
that when I
stupid
thought
bitch.
is it terrible that when I thought they had 500 nuclear weapons, I'm like, what's the big deal? The U.S. has 5,000.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
that is terrible.
except I think that these are also way bigger than the ones that we have. But yes,
Yeah.
that is. But also, I mean, maybe it's not terrible that you thought that. It's terrible that that is a thing that. that. So anyway, Darrow takes this information about the stockpiling these about the Jackal stockpiling these fucking nuclear weapons, and at the next big meeting of the Sons, there's some argument about who belongs there and who doesn't, and about whether or not to torture Cassius. So, on both counts, especially as it's Mustang who's currently in question as whether or not she should be there. But Darrow wants to scrap their plan, like I said, or like we said in the summary, to take. Darrow wants to scrap. My God, Tara. Darrow wants to scrap their plan, like I said in the summary, to try to take back Mars. He actually wants to abandon Mars. I mean, and I say abandon, I feel like I'm saying that kind of lightly. He wants to leave Mars because if they don't, then if the fight is there, they're not going to have a home to come back to. And I think he felt this way even before he learned about the warheads, honestly. But Dancer, being, the OG leader of the Sons of Ares, other than like Fitchner and I guess Quicksilver, is not happy about this. And to be honest, Sephi isn't happy about it either because she feels like this means they're going to abandon the Obsidians who are still there as well.
But Darrow reminds them, this planet is why we fight. The strength of rebel armies throughout history is that they have less to protect. They can rove and move and are impossible to pin down. We have so much to lose here, so much to protect. This war won't be won in days or weeks, it will be a decade. Mars will bleed. And in the end, ask yourselves, what will we inherit? A corpse of what was once our home. We must fight this war, but I will not fight it here.
So, the Red Armada is going to war, something Dancer never thought he would see. And Darrow wishes that Fitchner was there. And again, like, this is after a whole bunch of argument about whether or not they should leave Mars behind. Like, there is definitely some tensions are high amongst these people because keep in mind that as cool as Mustang and the Telemonases are, they're still golds. At least Severo is half red and Darrow is a carved red, right? So they see, Dancer especially sees that there is, or believes that there is too much influence of these golds on Darrow's thinking. I mean, he's wrong in this case, at least. But they're going to war. Dancer never thought he'd see this. Darrow wants Fitchner, or wishes that Fitchner was there. And Dancer says that his greatest regret is that Fitchner couldn't live to see his son, Severo, wear his helm, and to see Darrow become what Fitchner always knew he would be, someone who believes in the people.
Darrow is glad that Dancer sought him out, especially as he doesn't know if he will ever return, and thinks, and if I do, I fear he will see me as a different man, one who betrayed him, our people, Eo's dream. I've been here before, saying goodbye on a landing pad. Harmony stood with him then. Mateo, too, as they said goodbye on that spire in Yorkton. How can I feel so melancholy for so terrible a past? Maybe that's just the nature of us, ever wishing for things that were and could be rather than things that are and will be. It takes more to hope than to remember.
So, I don't know. What do you guys think about this quote? Because to be honest, I'm kind of like, he's thinking about saying goodbye to them, and we didn't really hear or see much about that in book 1. But these are people, Harmony trained with him. Dancer helped make him. Mateo trained him in the ways of gold. So is that part of his past so terrible? You know what I mean? Like between being carved, which is painful and awful, and going to the Institute, which was also painful and awful for different reasons, I feel like what he's remembering isn't so bad.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
to
disagree.
say like, how can I feel so melancholy for so terrible a past? Like, I get feeling melancholy, or I get him saying like, okay, I'm feeling melancholy about EO, right? About my time in the mines, and that was terrible. And I even get there being some like, oh, it was terrible being carved, and the training was hard, but like that was kind of a brief light moment in.
Yeah, at least from the reader's perspective.
Well, I mean, I think he's melancholy because he believes that his next action is going to upset these people. And
Well, but he
doesn't
specifically
know if
says,
he'll ever
okay,
get it back, and he thinks that he'll believe it's necessary, and we'll get to the next section in a little bit.
Yeah.
But he specifically says, how can I feel so melancholy for so terrible a past?
Yeah. And I know he's saying that in general, right? I get feeling melancholy about, or I get the thought of, I'm feeling melancholy about the terrible past of when I was a red, but like, and even again, like the painful carving and stuff, but that moment when he left people he did actually care about behind on the landing pad as he went to the Institute seems like, I feel like this what is, like, is this unreliable narrator, or are you just, I mean, also this is Darrow though, so it's like, maybe you're just a melancholy as fuck dude about everything.
No, I think he's feeling melancholy about the past because he thinks of in the past he had relationships with these people, and therefore, even though it was a terrible time in general, these were people that he loved and he respected, and he's fearful that when he comes back from this next adventure, knowing what he's planning to do, which we as readers don't, that they'll never respect him the same way again. I think that's where it's coming from.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, as it stands, the first portion of what we're covering tonight is the least happening, as they say. So, but wait, before they actually go to war or battle or whatever again, they're off to visit the Moon Lords in chapters 40 to 44.
Darrow arrives on Io to meet with Romulus Ra. Though from the start things don't go as planned, Mustang sets up the meeting, and Darrow believes the so-called Moonies, not the Unification Church version, will show, but he also knows that they are a proud people, a people who only bent to the sovereign's authority after she destroyed their moon Rhea, and who rose against her again when Mustang delivered their captive children from Luna after the massacre at Darrow's triumph. Eventually, Mustang arrives, but Romulus isn't with her. Instead, it's his sister Vela, come to fetch Darrow to a meeting at Romulus's home. Now, this was decidedly not part of the plan, and Severo is especially weary of treachery, and as is Darrow when he realizes it will just be him and Mustang along for the ride. But Mustang insists that Romulus would rather die than kill a guest. Obviously not a Walder Frey here, and even Sephi agrees that he should go, and so they do, though not before Severo promises to lay waste if they aren't back within 6 hours. At the home of Romulus Ra, Mustang is escorted inside to meet with him first, while Darrow is left in the gardens and is soon approached by a little girl. They have a pleasant conversation, but it's soon obvious that she clearly doesn't watch Hollows because, she doesn't know who Darrow is. Which, okay, dude, yeah, we get it. You're so big and important. Laugh out loud. When Romulus finally appears and shoos his daughter away, he and Darrow discuss the differences between growing up in the core versus growing up in the Rim, and the similarities between the exploitation enacted by people who feel entitled to power and the subjugation of low colors by golds as a whole. Romulus also asks Darrow how his father and daughter died at the Triumph, and it's a gruesome tale. Really, how could it not be, considering Vixus and Antonia, that bitch, were involved? Regardless, it bears no repeating.
There's more discussion to be had, but at this point, it needs to involve far more people, including Romulus's surprise guest, none other than that butt-sucker Roke O'Fabii. And despite Mustang and Darrow revealing that it was Octavia who ordered Aja's attack on Quinn and that the jackal killed her when she might have lived, Roke just sits there being the buttsucker that he is and blaming all the things on Darrow. Massive eye roll. A good bit of back and forth ensues, with Mustang calling out Roke on his bullshit from the very start, Roke promising things like tax and export tariff reductions, licenses for mining in the belt, an eventual reformation of the sovereign election process, and that he will deliver Antonia to them so they can mete out justice for the murders she committed. Darrow, for his part, begins with the pledge that if the Rim helps them take out the Sword Armada, they will have full independence, and he even agrees to abandon the low colors in the Rim. So for a moment, he has them. Until Roke opens his big wannabe poetic mouth again and pushes the idea of Orient united overall, at which point Darrow knows he has to make another move, and so he does, promising to give them the 350 Sons of Ares cells spread throughout their territories, and to return to the core, never coming through the asteroid belt as long as he lives, if only they will help him kill Roke's bloody damn fleet.
When Roke attempts to denounce all of this as a passel of lies, Darrow reminds him that it's the Sovereign who lies, the Sovereign who burned Rhea. And with his outburst about Rhea being a mistake that will never be repeated, Roke falls right into Darrow and Mustang's trap. Because, well, it's obviously not the whole truth and nothing but, they do have proof that there was an asteroid located on the space road from the core to the Rim that housed hundreds of nuclear warheads. Warheads that are, in fact, no longer there. And with a slip of wording, Roke at the very least reveals that he knew of its existence, and so the Moon Lord slipped through his fingers, and he storms out like a bratty little child. What a bastard. Actually, what a buttsucker, because I really like that insult. Darrow, being Darrow, insists on following him, wanting to know when he lost Roke as a friend. That apparently was when Roke... That apparently being when Quinn died, because Darrow being a gold or a red doesn't actually matter in Roke's mind. Darrow's spirit is black. Yawn. Just shut the fuck up, my dude. And man, Darrow, we all wish you'd stop chasing after these assholes like a poor abused puppy. Like, just kill the motherfucker. Back with the fleet, it's time for another pre-battle benediction and heartfelt goodbyes as the Telemanuses and Mustang go one way and Darrow goes another, but not before Cavix reminds Darrow that thanks to Pax and Mustang, he is one of them. If not a gold per se, then a friend. Family even. Oh, and not before Darrow gets in one good kiss with Mustang too. Wink, wink. Meanwhile, Orion is off on a mission of her own as well. By the way, she's a full-on admiral now and something of a pirate to boot. Oh, and she really wants a parrot, a red one specifically. So Darrow promises to find one for her if they pull off the destruction of their armada. There is, however, one surprise in store. Victra was supposed to be elsewhere, but she decided to stay with Darrow to protect him. You know, for Severus' sake, of course. Once more into the breach, she says, and Darrow goes live to broadcast yet another Reaper speech to remind his fleet that they are not red, Not blue or gold or gray or obsidian. They are humanity. They are the tide. And they will reclaim the lives that were stolen from them and build the future they were promised.
I love how just actor you went there when you have to read the whole speech in a little while.
Oh, don't worry. I'll bring even more.
Bring it on. So,
And we're off to see the Moon Lords, the wonderful Moon Lords of Oz.
Yeah, or of the brim. Yeah, I know. So Darrow has some feelings about Io and its people.
I may not like Io, but I can respect the people of this land. Ionian men and women are not like humans of Earth or Luna or Mercury or Venus. They're harder, wider, eyes slightly larger to absorb the dim light, 600 million kilometers from the sun, skin pale, taller, and able to withstand higher doses of radiation. These people believe themselves most like the Iron Golds who conquered Earth and put man at peace for the first time in her history.
I mean, yeah, okay, but did they? Did they really?
Well, for a few hours at least.
Yeah, like, so they enslaved a whole bunch of people, and that's peace. This sounds very it sounds very yeah.
Like a bunch of white colonizers talking about how they created
Exactly.
peace.
Yeah. Are we back in Temeraire again?
Well, there's
Oh,
a
God.
difference, though. All of these people are not white.
No, they're
This
literally
is a multi-ethnic group of colonizers.
that is true. That is actually true.
Yes, in this scenario, gold is the new white.
Yeah. Shit. Who said orange is the new pink? Oh God, no wait, those are two colors in the story too. Anyway, moving on. I just want to say that when Darrow and Mustang go off to meet with the House of Raw, Severo bumps this with Darrow, and then he turns and he's like, "Yeah, you too, Mustang." And I just was like, "This is a because Severo has kind of talked a lot of shit about Mustang, like a lot of shit. But I loved that he was like, I guess I'm accepting you too now. Bump fists with me."
We're cool.
So, actually, this next part is yours, Nick.
It is. Once Darrow is escorted to the home of Romulus Ra, he is told to wait in the garden, where he runs into a little girl, not something he's used to, as he hasn't met many gold children, apparently. Core peerless families often guard them from the public eye for fear of assassination, keeping them in private estates or schools. I've heard the Rim is different. They do not kill children here, but everyone likes to pretend that they don't kill children.
Where have we heard this before?
Yeah. Like literally everywhere. Every fantasy.
Everyone likes to pretend they don't kill children. Pew, 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 pew.
I mean, honestly, though, like, we obviously know that Nero Augustus kept Mustang and the Jackal like sequestered away. I mean, he sent Mustang to stay with the Telemanuses, and I think only very few people even knew that she was his child when she was staying with them.
Mhm.
And I mean, he hid the Jackal away, which, I mean, let's be real, I think that I don't know if I completely disagree with that, but
Maybe we should have just killed him.
for different. Well, he tried that. He did though, because the Jackal was born like a weakling, and he put him out in like the there's like a thing that they do where they like put them out in the elements for like X amount of days, and if they survive, then like, okay, I guess they get to survive. So,
yeah, apparently it was a mistake to just let him be out in the elements. Maybe they should have just like.
God, I guess.
But then again, Darrow should have killed him back at the Institute.
Yes,
So.
exactly. But also, this is Darrow we're talking about. Like, he also wanted to be BFFs with the Jackal. It's like, I can change him too, guys. I can change him.
The power of friendship will heal anyone. And don't get me wrong, I love when like the power of friendship actually like wins the day. Like Steven Universe, like fuck. I love that shit.
Also,
you know?
Oh my gosh, She-Ra, the new She-Ra.
Yes. She-Ra, yes, love new She-Ra. But also, come on, y'all. Like sometimes that shit doesn't work and you need to recognize like, hey, this is not going to be a good scene. I need to fucking kill this person.
But Darrow, he like never will.
Yeah, I know.
So he's in these gardens. He meets this little girl named Serafina. And when Romulus shows up and asks what she thinks of Darrow, she points out that he's big. And Darrow's like, but not so large as a Telemanus. And she replies, well, nothing is as large as a Telemanus. Which is like, I love that even in the Rim, the whole Telemanus family is known for being like large and obnoxious in the best ways, because they are the best. And Darrow tells her about Ragnar and includes that he is dead now. And she's like, that must be why you're so sad. And I was just like, child is smart. Because Darrow also
intelligent baby.
Yeah, because she's like 8 years old, and Darrow is also just like, how did she know? And I was like, because you fucking wear your emotions on your sleeve. And also, like, Ragnar was Ragnar, and you should be fucking sad about it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, come on, Darrow, you're basically a big himbo who has like read a lot of books.
Yeah. Well,
no, he hasn't actually read any. He just had them absorbed into his brain.
You're right. Yeah. It is more like he got them absorbed into his brain. Although I do think that there is a reference to him like spending a lot of time reading books.
No, he does read. He does absolutely read. It's just like the vast amount of knowledge that he has is absolutely due to the
absolutely
plans and all that shit. But it's probably important to note that Serafina didn't know who Darrow was because Romulus doesn't allow his children to watch Hollows before the age of 12. And also that their children aren't allowed to have servants because the moment a child thinks it's entitled to anything, they think they deserve everything. And I gotta say, like, I'm behind the Moonies on this.
Like, 100%. But also, isn't it a little bit like how Bill Gates is like, oh, I'm not just gonna like give all my money to my children, but like they're still gonna grow up incredibly entitled, but like they're just not gonna like immediately get everything.
Warren Buffett did that too.
Yeah. Like I'm like, okay, sure, that's like better than not just like giving them whatever they want and raising them to be spoiled children. But also, like, you're not actually like teaching them to be like different than you. You're teaching them like they have to earn what you got.
Yeah, they have to earn their privilege.
But they still get the privilege regardless of whether or not.
Well, not if they don't earn it.
No,
right? I mean, if they're complete fuck-ups, they're not going to get it.
Well, but
the Gates and the Buffett children absolutely still get all of the privilege of being a Gates and a Buffett child, regardless of whether or not they earn the money.
Well, and in this case,
okay, so not necessarily. In this case, I don't know the Gates or the Buffett children, but presumably, I'm putting it into the perspective of the novel here. Romulus expects his children to reach a certain point of understanding and of the world as he sees it, and he's not going to give that to him. And if presumably, especially based on how Golds treat their pixies, so to speak, if they don't earn it, they're not going to get it. Now they may get something, but they're not.
Oh, they still get
they're still an Romulus, right? So like back to the real world, like if you're, I don't know what his children's name.
No, they could end up being
but like if
unfortunate.
you're Joe Gates, right? Like, and you go to a college admission board and you're like, hey, my name is Joe Gates. They're gonna be a lot more like, you say you're the child of Bill Gates, and maybe we can have an alumnus who is from the Gates family, and maybe we will have the opportunity to get some of that money. There's no guarantee, but they're a lot more likely to consider that candidate than the candidate who has a name that they've never heard of before.
Okay,
Well,
so
well,
they
hold
still
on,
get
hold on.
that privilege.
So
Yes.
while that you're talking about you're talking about real world here, and I'm trying to put this in the fantasy perspective. Yes, in the real world, you're absolutely right. But in this world,
I'm saying that even in the fantasy
this
world, they still have a privilege of being.
I can easily see Romulus, if their child is a fuck up, or not what he wants him to be, being much more like Randall Tarley treating Sam.
Yes, I mean, I think you're probably right there. I mean, but that's the thing. Like, when he says they have to earn servants or slaves, Serafina points to her cheek, like with the scar, which means she has to go to the institute. So here's the thing, like, even though they don't go to,
They go to a different institute.
They're claiming that their institutes are better, because there's no R word or mutilation or whatever. They still
And
have
maybe
to
they
fight.
don't kill half of them either.
Oh no, I guarantee you they still do that though.
You think so? It's never clear.
I guarantee you they do.
I'm not so sure about that.
We also know that your name gets you an amount of privilege in your matchups.
No,
so
that's
if you have
true.
a specific name,
but I'm not sure
be matched up with somebody who is less likely to be able to take you out.
I'm still not convinced, and maybe so, unless I missed something, there's no evidence that the institutes out on the rim are the same. And I sort of interpreted them as they were very different. So
I think that they absolutely curb some things, but no, I absolutely believe they still call students the way they did in, like, the only thing wrong, because they talk about the institutes, and the things that he points out are the sexual assault and the mutilation. And so I think that the culling still happens. And well, obviously, yes, like that's the thing, like Nick is saying, Serafina Ara is not going to go to that institute and be paired with somebody that could kill her on purpose. Like Severo and Priam, that was a mistake. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Nope.
Everybody else killed the person they were supposed to kill.
No, because you had people like Clown and Pebble also who were not supposed to survive.
No,
I mean, they mentioned that with the small. It's like, oh, so the selection.
I think that's actually kind of like assumption, honestly. Like the only ones we know for sure, the only person we know for sure who killed the person he wasn't supposed to kill was Severo. Like everybody else, like they paired, they generally paired like mid-level entries with mid-level entries, low-level entries with low-level entries. Like, so I mean, it's kind of besides the fact, because the fact of the matter is, like, Serafina Aura is not going to earn her slaves until she earns her scar, but she is still a member of House Ra, and so she still is going to have like that step up in society. And Darrow is, I mean, to be honest, like throughout this whole conversation, Darrow thinks that it's hard for him to speak to Romulus as if he is not a tyrant. And he says,
you sit here and think you're more civilized than Luna because you obey your creed of honor, because you show restraint, but you're not more civilized. You're just more disciplined.
Romulus asks, isn't that civilization? Order? Denying animal impulse for stability? No, it's not. But hey, Darrow is here to discuss war, not philosophy or politics. And in the end, it turns out they aren't the only ones paying a visit to Io. Roka's there too.
Darrow greets him, but behind my distant welcome is an aching heart. There's not a hint of sorrow on his face, however. I want there to be. And knowing that, I know I still feel for the man. He is a soldier of his people, and I'm a soldier of mine. He's not the evil of his story. He's the hero who unmasked the Reaper, who smashed the Augustus Telemanus fleet at the Battle of Deimos the night after my capture. He does not do these things for himself. He lives for something as noble as I, his people. His only sin is in loving them too much, as is his way.
I literally could not roll my eyes enough.
Man, fuck
Like,
Rogue.
I wish this is the one week where I wish Nami was not on vacation and was here.
I
Because
know.
I can just imagine the Nami rants about Rogue right now.
Look, I didn't like Rogue back at the Institute, but like everything since the Institute, I've liked him less and less. He is just such a piece of shit. He's like, he is the worst of the like, well, I did it because I had to do it. I did it because I was protecting my people kind of bullshit logic.
Nick, he loves his people.
Fuck his people.
He loves everybody too much.
He doesn't love everybody too much. He only loves Golds too much.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
And we even see that later on, but we'll get to
Well,
that.
actually, I think he also, in a way, to be honest, loved Darrow too much, and that's why he was so butthurt about everything that happened. Like, wine, Darrow hurt my feelings.
Darrow didn't pay enough attention to me. Darrow didn't do all the things that I wanted him to do.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Well,
I mean, I agree. Like, we're shitting on Roke a lot. Do you want to be the?
Well, I'm not gonna really defend the guy. I mean, but from his perspective, I see why he was so upset at Darrow and not trusted and never brought into the inner circle. I get all that. Now, how would he have? Now having said that, it's obvious that of all the people that Darrow was befriending, I think knowing the truth, even Cassius would have taken it better than Roke would have.
Yeah, I think Roke is the quintessential, I'm not racist, but.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, Cassius sees the flaws
I can't be
in his society.
Racist. I have a relationship with a pink.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute.
But all my friends, but my best friend is a red.
Yeah. Lord. So Darrow offers the Rim independence.
I go to a red hairdresser for Pete's sake.
So Darrow offers the Rim independence in exchange for their help in destroying the Sword Armada, and this includes him agreeing to abandon the low colors in the Rim and also giving them the information on the Sons of Ares cells there as well. Which brings us back to when he was at the end of the last section that we talked about, he was saying, Dancer is going to hate me. Like,
right. Yep.
They're going to feel like I betrayed them. And so he was, I mean, again, this is Darrow, plots and plans, and plans and plots.
And this is why I was saying he felt melancholy, because he knew this was a likely scenario.
Okay, I get you there then, I guess. But like, seriously, like,
yeah.
And even after he's like, I'm giving you your independence, I will abandon the low colors here. Like, they still have to be slaves, which, cool, man. I mean, I listen, I guess I I don't know. I don't know. Like, I want to say, I guess I get sacrificed for war, but I'm still like, this is slavery. So
Well,
no.
I mean, so I'll say this: they're not slaves per se. They're
Sorry,
much
who's not
more.
a slave?
The low colors are not slaves. They're just
In
very
what
poorly
way are they
paid
not slaves?
employees.
Yeah, no, they're absolute slaves. They don't even know what they're toiling for.
Are you
No,
going to say
that
that
was
they're
true.
like
That was
serfs,
true
and
in
so
the
therefore
Reds
they're
on
not
Mars. I don't
slaves?
think that's true in the Bell.
Oh no, it's well, actually, you actually might be correct about that. You actually might be correct about the low colors in the belt understanding what they're doing and not being like just buried under the surface, like thinking that they're working for something that already exists. But it doesn't matter. I mean, they're
Well, they're
not
treated
being.
horribly. They're still exploited, but it's
Oh
slightly
no,
In a
different.
best case
they're
scenario,
not
what you're
paid. They're
describing
not
is
paid
serfs.
an hourly wage for their work. Like, so they're slaves.
Yeah.
They're given
Best
Are
like,
case
they not?
scenario, best
I
case
thought.
scenario, Jonathan, you're describing the difference between slaves and serfs.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No, right. I thought they were more serfs.
I
That's
mean,
not a good distinction.
no,
No,
it's
I
just
didn't say it was, but there is again. This is where you get the slight difference between the rim and Mars, right? It's subtle, but there is a distinction.
they're like, we're being more honest with you about your slavery, so
That's
it's
like the
better, right?
distinction of that's like the distinction of the racism of the South versus the racism of the North.
Yeah.
Like everybody's
Well,
fucking racist. Some
yeah,
people are
but
just more overt about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
no,
Some
I
people
mean,
say I'm a fucking racist, and some people are just doing racist things.
Oh, people in the South don't think they're racist. Come on now, Nick.
Oh, there's a lot of
but
people in the
but
South who
but
absolutely are like, I'm a fucking racist.
but
But
I mean,
come on, we're all
I hate
racist.
to say
Like
it, Nick,
that's
but I do think there is a distinction between the racism of the North and the historical racism of the South. It's not to make the North as the pit as being good, but everything in society is a matter of perspective. And
I'm making the
so that
ugliest face right now because, to be honest, I grew up in Connecticut and
very racist historically.
it was our
Blue
racism was
laws and
our
unofficial.
racism in Connecticut was way more overt than the racism in the South since I've lived down here. Honestly, it really was. Like it was like um so I lived in a farm town, and how there was a point in time where they were talking about busing in kids from Hartford, Connecticut who were not getting the education that they should have,
You know,
and everybody in my town fought against it, and it wasn't because like there was like a lack of teachers or anything. It was literally because like, oh my god, you can't bring in those people, those
and
people.
I lived 15 minutes from Yonkers during essentially the race situation that bankrupted the city because they would not follow court orders in Yonkers during the 80s. I'm fully aware of the
and
the
I want to
northern
be clear.
and Boston and the northern history of racism is terrible. Having said that, it was the northern North in general that eliminated slavery. That doesn't mean that that makes them better, but not good, right? There is yes, it's better to be there. I mean, there is a distinction in my mind. I'm sorry, maybe it's because I'm old, but there.
I don't think it's because you're old. I think it's just a difference in. I don't know. Okay, listen. Honestly,
But
I'm gonna
I'm
crop
gonna
this.
say one more
Okay, go
thing, and
ahead.
then I'll let it go.
Yes.
Okay, and
My
I'll let you
point
have the last
is,
word.
my point is, everyone who is white is a fucking racist. The
I
degrees of
think
racism do matter, but the shades in between the degrees is really not that important. And when you talk about the difference between being a slave and being a serf, there's not a whole lot of difference. Now, if you talk about the difference between being anti-racist and being a part of the racist
Systemic racism.
systemic racist issues and just allowing them to exist, that is a very important distinction. That is something that I will fight for. But if you're fighting over like somebody who is not as racist but still racist versus somebody who's like, yeah, I'm a fucking racist, they're still just fucking shades of racism.
Yes, but
So
okay.
You said you'd let him have the last.
I did, and I will.
But also, to be honest,
I will shut up.
This is a discussion that goes so deep into what has been happening in our society for the past several years.
100%.
I mean, has always been happening, but like, I mean, specifically,
since time immemorial,
has specifically come to the forefront in the past several years. That, like Nick said, like everybody who's white is at least a little bit racist, right? Like you are. There's stuff that's ingrained in you as a person because of the way you are raised, where you're raised, who you're raised by, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in this case, it's very similar to that. It's like we're, the low colors might not be treated as badly in the rim as they are in the core, but they're still treated fucking badly because they're low.
Okay, I said I would end it, but now that you brought up this, the problem with what we're missing, I think, in this discussion is you're limiting it to white people. The reality is racism exists in everybody, and and the racism may be tribal, it may be by color, it may be by religion. It is unfortunately endemic to human society. Now, having said that, in recent human society, as in probably the last 2,000 years, though at least 500 years, white people have dominated that society. And therefore, from a modern perspective, you are absolutely 100% correct. But if we go back to world history, there have been times when the Asians were dominating and were the racists. I mean, it is unfortunately endemic to how humans operate. Well, yeah, like, and I don't know why that is. As someone who thinks about things, there are many things I don't get, and our behavior towards one another has always been one of them. But that doesn't mean to say I'm totally innocent and I haven't had, I've told a racist joke back when I was younger and didn't know better, or when society wasn't as politically correct it is. Of course I did. To say I never did, it would be a lie. But you try to sit there and at least I do, treat everyone with dignity, and like, how can any, right now I'm hiring a lot of people, and I know a guy who worked in my office who has had white privilege and feels like he's lost out as we have become more diverse. And he's always asking, did you have to hire the black person? Did you have to do this? And I'm like, no one's made me do anything.
I would have fired that guy, honestly.
He doesn't work for me. He used to work in our office. He doesn't now, but he asked me these questions. I'm like, are you getting pressured to do this? I'm like, not at all. I've never been pressured to hire anyone in any of my hiring. It just has never happened. And I don't know.
I mean,
but he clearly feels like he's been victimized somehow. I don't get it, because he does. Because he's a GS-15. I mean, there's not much higher to go in government than a GS-15. Like, I don't know what the hell he's complaining about, but whatever. So that's actually a really good analogy. I never personally have felt threatened by it, but apparently other people do. Now, why? I don't know.
But I think that's a really good analogy, and I think it actually brings us back to this discussion of the Golds and the Aureates, and like that whole argument that Roque is making is around, we have to protect the way that things have been, versus anything that might give the other colors any kind of power. And that's how Roque tries to get the outer rim back on
Right.
his side.
Well, and on top of that, it brings us back all the way back to Golden Sun, where Nero was telling Darrow, like, I know all the other colors can do this shit,
Yep.
right? I know they can do this shit, but that's not our society. So,
Yep.
on that note, Darrow offers the Rim independence in exchange for their help in destroying the Sword Armada. And as I said, this includes him agreeing to abandon the low colors in the Rim and giving them information on the Sons of Ares cells there, which is like, oh my God, like I understand why he felt he had to do it, but all of this is like 10 times bad. That said, this still doesn't seem like it's going to be enough because Roke pulls his like Uriet is law, blah 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 bullshit, and Darren Mustang have one more thing up their sleeve, and they trick Roke into admitting there is a nuclear weapons depot in the Rim. And even though Roke tries to claim he didn't empty the depot on his way to Io, Romulus is like, as soon as Roke admits that he knew it was there and he knows that that depot is empty, Romulus is super done believing anything Roke says. And he asks Roke, what is pride without honor? What is honor without truth? Honor is not what you say. It is not what you read. Honor is what you do.
I guess we finally really see why Roke was in House Mars when he announces, if you betray your color, the compact, the society, which is what this will be, Ilium will burn. I will acquaint you with ruin. I will hunt down every person you have ever known, and I will exterminate their seed from the worlds. I will do so with a heavy heart, but I am a man of Mars, a man of war, so know that my wrath will be unending.
And then Rimus is like, cut my finger. Blood feud, bitches.
Spit in your face.
Spit blood in your face. Like, are we not worried about diseases here? Apparently
No, we're not.
They're gold.
We're worried about blood feuds.
Lord.
Fucking iconic too. Like, what more badass way to start a duel than to fucking cut yourself and then spit your blood in their face?
It's not even a duel. This is just a feud. Like, listen, there are two things that happen in these books when somebody is being shat on, and I mean that figuratively, because it's either a blood feud where you cut yourself and spit blood in their face, or it's you pissing on them.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, I remember a lot of pissing on people. I don't remember anyone shitting on people.
No, there was no shitting on people. There was no shitting on people. There was Cassius started the blood feud with Darrow in book 1. Karnas et al. I'm sorry. Also in book 1, Titus and all of them pissed on Cassius when they caught him trying to save like Quinn or something, or Leah maybe. And then in book 2, Karnas and all of them pissed on Darrow. So it's like, literally, if you want to just fuck someone up and make them just like the biggest loser in all the worlds, you either spit blood in their face or piss on them, which seems so dangerous and disgusting. But I guess they're all goals and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're super strong and they don't get diseases or something. So Roke leaves, and of course, Jesus fucking Christ, Darrow goes chasing after Roke when he's
like a lost puppy.
Exactly, like
yes, 100%. He asked Roke when he lost him. Sorry. He asked Roke when he lost him, and Roke claims it was when Quinn died. Darrow questions whether Roke planned to kill him, even when he thought Darrow was a gold.
And well, yep, because as Roke says, gold, red, it doesn't matter. Your spirit is black. Quinn was good. Leah was good, and you used them. You are ruined, Darrow. You drain your friends of life and leave them spent and wasted in your wake, convincing yourself each death is worth it. Each death brings you closer to justice. But history is littered with men like you. The society is not without fault, but the hierarchy of this world, it is the best man can afford.
That's literally what you're doing, Roke. That's what you're doing.
And also,
Ah!
like, how the fuck could he blame Darrow for Leah's death? That was Antonia, that bitch.
Yeah.
Like, that had...
Because, like, at that point, I don't think Cassius even knows that... Cassius doesn't even know that Darrow killed Julius, right? When Leah dies?
I don't remember the exact timing, but I don't think it matters. Roke certainly didn't. Roke didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just
Roke
saying, like, I don't think
Roke
there's
and Leah
anything...
went out to like hook up, and they killed Leah and like fucked up Roke and tossed him in a gully or something. Like,
yeah.
How is this Darrow's fault, dude? This is the Institute, and it is Antonia's fault, and you are literally fighting on the same side as that bitch.
Yeah, you're like BFFs now.
Ugh. Well, I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure he hates Antonia. Everybody hates Antonia. Even the Jackal hates Antonia deep down.
I mean, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Like, she's awful, but at the same time, like, Roke is so wrapped up in his belief in like gold prominence, fucking racist piece of shit, that he can't think about the fact that it might have been not Darrow's fault. Like, or well, no, actually, that's not even it. I think he is so mad at Darrow about the wrongs he feels Darrow has done to him, that he can't like codify like Darrow did me wrong, because yes, Darrow did do him wrong in some ways with anything else. Like, he just, everything is blamed on Darrow. He's the worst, and fuck him. And so they're back to preparing for yet another battle with the same benediction that was used before the Iron Rain.
Darrow muses, it has lost none of its luster, none of the grandeur that so sheathes this remarkable people that go to death not for the veil, not for love, but for glory. We have never seen a race quite like them, nor will we again. After months surrounded by the sons of Ares, I see these golds less as demons than fallen angels, precious, flaring so brightly against the sky before disappearing beyond the horizon. But how many more days like this can they afford?
Which is sad, because then he has to watch Kavix say goodbye to Mustang, and like he sees Kavix like just grab Mustang, Kavix out of the manos. He just sees him grab Mustang and like hug her like up off the ground, and he's thinking about how Kavix was the father that she really had. And then he has his own moment with the Telemonises as well, and he thanks Kavix for his kindness, for watching over Darrow's friends when Darrow isn't even one of them. And Kavix is like, "You're a fool!" Like, where's Sophocles, like, to pull a jelly bean out of Darrow's pants or whatever?
Sophocles.
Oh no, wait, he does. Yeah. Kavix says he's a fool. Pax made Darrow one of them, and so does Mustang. And then there's Sophocles, who discovers yet another jelly bean that somehow made its way into a joint in Darrow's armor. Which, like, yes, literally, like, my next pet is named Sophocles, probably.
100%.
And everybody's like, "Oh, you're super smart," and I'm like, "No, I'm naming it after a dumb fox who loves jelly beans."
And yes, I 100% feed this animal, whatever animal it is, jelly beans.
Yeah. I mean, But also, like, I fucking love Sophocles. Like, I love him so
And you
much.
can now see an image of him.
Yes, in our I'll try to share this. I'll share this on our blog or something. Jonathan has Jonathan, you need to send us. Jonathan has created like virtual minis of a whole bunch of characters from the Red Rising series. So yeah, you need to send me all those images again because I
I
feel
will.
like I should absolutely share them.
I will do so.
So of course, we get another big Daryl speech, though at least this one is quite a bit shorter.
In mine, in space, in city and sky, we have lived our lives in fear. Fear of death, fear of pain. Today, fear only that we fail. We cannot. We stand upon the edge of darkness, holding the lone torch left to man. That torch will not go out. Not while I breathe, not while your hearts beat in your chest, not while our ships yet have menace in them. Let others dream, let others sing. We chosen few are the fire of our people. We are not red, not blue or gold or gray or obsidian. We are humanity. We are the tide. And today we reclaim the lives that have been stolen from us. We build the future we were promised. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you.
Okay. Now, it's finally time for the battle in chapters 45 through 49. As the battle begins, it's clear that Roke wants to board Darrow's ships, meaning there's no slugging it out and hoping for the best. But at the same time, Darrow believes that Roke doesn't really understand Red psychology and therefore won't suspect his real plan, which, as usual, includes plots and plans within plans and plots. Orion technically begins the battle, but it's kind of all a ruse for Darrow to run the Pax in close and sacrifice her to the cause, because while the Leechcraft they launch at Roke's Moonbreaker are empty and the Pax is dying around them, Roke is wrong to believe they're dead in the water. The ship might be, but again, plans and plots, y'all. Darrow orders the remaining crew of the Pax to abandon ship, while he, Victra, Holiday, and a whole ass regiment of Valkyrie meet up with a crew of Helldivers to board retrofitted quadrilles that they then use to fly through space and punch into Roke's ship. They're prepared for close quarters combat, some of them perhaps too much so, as the Valkyrie are high AF on berserker fungus. But Darrow is quickly frustrated by the slow going, even more so when Mustang hails him and reveals that Roke used EMPs on her ships. Darrow knows that it's only a matter of time before Roke announces that he must surrender or watch Mustang die. Because, of course, Roke would do that, and honestly, fuck him.
Fuck him indeed. So Darrow and his platoon charge for the bridge, but it's been sealed off by a door that will take them at least 14 minutes to burn through. Oh, and they're also not about to be cornered by a bunch of golds. It all seems very dire until the door merely slides open. And to be honest with you, I was confused by this moment, but regardless, they surge through it, ready to fight, but what greets them is a calm, clean, dimly lit bridge with Beethoven being piped through the speakers. Because it wasn't actually Roke that opened the door, leading them into a trap. It was actually a pink valet who opened the door for them and was listening to Darrow's message that was playing on the ship's comm unit instead. So, lol, joke's on you, Roke! It's mere seconds before one of the golds catches sight of them, and of course, and hilariously, as the fight begins, one of them starts announcing herself as Felicia, and earns a well-timed, if cheesy, "Bye, Felicia," from Victra. Soon enough, Roke is the only person left who hasn't surrendered. Well, other than the Blues in the pit, who clearly have no idea what to do because it's not as if they're fighters. Roke, being Roke, refuses to stand down, continuing his barrage on Mustang's ship, even after Darrow reminds him that it's Mustang that he's attacking. But hey, remember all those plots and plans we keep mentioning? Because this is when the PAX comes into play. They reverse the coolant flow, causing the reactors to overheat, and because it's, positioned in the midst of Roke's fleet, when it implodes, it destroys all of his ships. So long, PAX, the ship, and thanks for all the good times. However, Roke's fleet does have Darrow's in flight, and he believes they will come back to save him, except apparently Roke didn't think to wonder where Severo, of all people, is, and it turns out that some Helldivers melted caverns into the nearby moon of Thebes, where Severo and 6,000 soldiers were loaded into star shells and waiting for their call. Boom.
Granted, once upon a short time ago, there was also leechcraft filled with golds from Team Romulus in some of those caverns. But the Reds on Team Darrow collapsed those caverns right as several launches, because Darrow needed that additional assurance plan, at least in his mind. And yet Roke continues being a big old brat, because he's still swore an oath to the society. And even after all of this, Darrow still tries to convince Roke that the world needs him. Just like Iceman tried to convince Maverick that the Navy still needed him, which got shut up. Darrow, you are the only person who feels this way right now, and only for Roke to step away and wax on about being God and glory and gold before taking his own life. Anyway, moving on, because no one but Darrow cares about what just happened, and also because there's still one thing left for Darrow to take care of, and y'all, it's, well, not great, especially when Antonia, oh yes, was part of the battle, commanding a ship that she basically stole from Victra, full-on abandons the rest of the Sword Armada. Victra wants to go after her bitch half-sister. Remember, Darrow did promise her that revenge, but Darrow insists that first things first, they need to set a course for Ganymede. Of course, Romulus notices, but when he hails Darrow, Darrow pretends to still be fighting in the halls of Roke's ship. Because, he's totally on his way to destroy the docks of Ganymede and blame it all on Roke. At the last moment, Victra tells Darrow to share the load, and she is the one who gives the order. They watch the destruction, Sephi and Holiday by their side, and when it is over, Darrow asks that Sephi rename Roke's ship Tir Morga, she says without hesitation, Morning Star. Discussion, part 3. I guess I have to wait to talk about the end of that scene.
Yes. So the battle of Ilium begins, and very soon it seems that the Rising Fleet is, outmatched and outgunned, quote unquote. They're losing ships left and right, and one of those ships is the Pax. One more friend lost to the cause. When Darrow thinks that, I'm just like,
Darrow just brings destruction. Roke was right.
Exactly. He's such a black soul. But turns out Claudrils weren't really out of the equation after all. Because they retrofitted, like we said, a bunch of them with thrusters and used them to punch into Roke's Moonbreaker with the help of some Helldivers. And Severo is waiting elsewhere to do other things. But the Valkyrie are with Darrow, high on Berserker Fungus, and ready to help him clear a path through Roke's ship. Meanwhile, Mustang is under heavy fire. Roke used EMPs on her ship, so she's in big trouble, and Darrow needs to hurry. But Roke put his ship on full lockdown, and it will take them too long to, drill through the door. There's a whole lot of just... When they're fighting through the halls, they're losing Valkyrie left and right, and they get cornered at the bridge, and there's this recorded message, this constant replay of Darrow's recorded message that's the Reaper has taken your ship, it's exhorting the low colors on the ship to join them, and it's going on in the background, and sure enough, it works its magic, because a pink on the bridge opens the door for them. And listen, the battle is amazing. There's a whole lot of shit going on. They fight through the halls. They're cornered at the door, and at one point, like Sephi, she goes back and like is like fighting off gold, and she brings someone's head to them, and Victor's like, "That's so and so. He was in my house in the institute. He's a really good cook." Which actually makes me wonder, like, what house was Victor in? Like, he's a good cook. Like, was she Ceres? Like,
Well, I don't think we ever found out which house.
we never find out we have not at this point found out what house Victor's in. But like, saying somebody's a really good cook implies that they had food to cook.
Yeah.
So, Ceres? Maybe, I guess,
Maybe.
Minerva or Diana. I would have put Victor in Mars, but I don't think she was a House Mars. So now I'm like, that's like a question for Pierce. Please
I feel
tell
like she
us
definitely
what house.
wasn't Mars, just because I feel like if she was Mars, we would have
Known it already.
We would have had that, you know?
Mm.
Like she would have been in some of the earlier.
But I wouldn't have
'Cause
put her
Antonio
in
was
House
Mars.
Ceres. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's definitely a good question for Pierce. Is hey, what house was
admit to us what house Victor was.
Yes, give us the dirt.
But a pink on the bridge opens the doors for him. And lo, Roke is all like, even you, Amalthea, I think is her name. I think he says Amathea, but I almost wonder if that was a typo, because that's a weird name. And the only other place I've heard a name anything like that was Amalthea from The Last Unicorn.
Ooh.
So I want to believe that that was a typo and it was supposed to be Amalthea, not Amathea. But I could be wrong about that. But when he's like, even you, Amathea. And she's like, here's my pink, like, you know, Phoebe I Rose badge. And she like takes it off and throws it away. And Victor's like, you romantic son.
I love Victor so much.
Oh, God. So you've missed our discussions with Seth where he's like, I have problems with Victor. And listen, I get it.
Off, Seth.
Like, well,
what problems?
I mean, she. To be fair,
she's an exploiter, but you know, she's
yes, exactly. But like, she also is learning lessons, but she might not learn all the lessons. That said, I
mean, look, he's not wrong, but like, also, fuck off.
But also, like, when she calls Rick a romantic sap, I'm just like, dude, like this
gives me
this poor girl was still your slave. Like, she was a pink, like, which is literally like, you can listen, like, reds, what they go through are bad. Obsidians, what they go through is fucking awful. But like, pinks, that's the worst. Yep. That is the worst. It's the most disgusting part of the society by far. And but I love that they're just like, they just walk up into the bridge, or well, no, that's not even true. They burst into the bridge because the door opens and they're like expecting a fight, and it's like, nope, this pink just opened the door for you.
I gotta give credit to Pierce. I did not see that coming. I thought it was something where like Roke was like, so just fuck you. I've got all of you in checkmate. You can come onto the bridge. I don't care. And so then to realize that it was actually a pink who had opened the door and let them in, and Roke had no idea. I was like, oh shit. Fuck yes.
And also, she was his pink.
Yes, she was his like pink. And she was like, fuck you. Yes, we love to see it.
Also, somebody just brought me food. I now have to eat beef bourguignon on screen.
Bless them for bringing you food.
I didn't really need it, but like,
Hey,
it's beef
they
bourguignon.
brought you beef. Yes.
Yeah. No, I was just like that was such like just a moment where you realize that the pink opened the door and then it's like his pink and you're just like
yeah.
like,
I was
what's
not
that
prepared.
character from fucking
Nelson.
Beavis and Butthead, right?
Yeah, no, not Beavis and Butt. No,
I'm sorry, no,
Simpsons.
Simpsons. It's from The Simpsons, but I can't remember which character.
It's Nelson.
Yeah.
I said Yeah, that was just such a beautiful moment. Like, really good job with that scene.
Yep.
Especially, I think, because there was all this like dramatic tension around, can they get in time? What are they going to do? And then it just opens and Roke is caught completely unaware.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, was not expecting that. And it was really well.
Even you.
Even you.
And she's like, bitch, I'm still a slave. Yeah, even me.
Yeah, you've basically been raping me, so fuck you.
So, Roke's side of the battle has devolved into chaos because Central Intelligence went silent as soon as they all realized, like, Darrow was on the bridge. And this is like, Darrow calls it the individual initiative creating chaos, which is. But despite he and his ship being captured, Roke still believes they have Darrow's fleet outnumbered in flight, and they just took down Mustang's ship, leaving Darrow just having to hope that she's still alive, which is also. But where's Several, y'all? P.S. He's at the head of a fleet of leechcraft filled with obsidians and screaming reds that was hidden in caverns that hell divers had dug out of the moon. Thebes. So, side note though, there were also leechcraft filled with Romulus's golds there too. But the reds that created the caverns collapsed their caverns on them.
I don't think he collapsed it on them. I just think they trapped him in them.
No. They collapsed the caverns on them. Like, those people are dead.
Oh, that's how you interpret? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. Those people are dead. And
Darrow does not give a fuck.
No. He
proves, Darrow does not give a fuck.
No, I get that. All right, well, let's table this till later because I think it's all related to something a little bit later. But I want to discuss that whole plot.
Sure.
But it has to wait for a few minutes.
Okay.
Well, I think that, I mean, the whole point is, like, Darrow, he needed that extra insurance. He couldn't, because if Romulus's leechcraft filled with gold had left Thebes, they would have been able to capture ships. Darrow needs those ships. So he's like,
no, that part of it I get. I get all of that. But I just let's wait for a moment.
So that's his insurance plan, right? Like, I need the ships.
I know.
need to have more ships than Romulus. So Darrow, after Severo and his 6,000 legions, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, burst from their caverns on Thebes to come after Roke's ships, Darrow tells Roke the day is lost. But Roke, you can save lives by telling your fleet to stand down. Like, you're backed into a corner, as Victor says. But Roke, he doesn't want to destroy what's left of his honor. And Victra, my fave, sneers, honor? What honor do you think you have? We were your friends and you gave us up. Not just to be killed, but to be put in boxes, to be electrocuted, burned, tortured night and day for a year. We were your friends.
Darrow watches her, thinking, here in armor, it's hard to imagine the blonde warrior to have ever been a victim. But in her eyes, there's that special sadness that comes from seeing the void, from feeling cut away from the rest of humanity.
Like, seriously, it's Rogue's fault that they ended up here.
Yep.
I mean, okay, maybe not entirely. Fine. Whatever. But he was absolutely a huge part of it, and fuck him.
Yes.
Butt-sucking Rogo Fabii. So he claims, like, Rogo's like, my heart breaks for you, for who you were, for what you've suffered. But I love my people, and I refuse to watch my world burn, blah, blah, blah.
Because, by the way, he means to K-word himself, unalive himself. And even though Darrow begs him not to, because the world needs Roque Fabii. He needs Roque Fabii. There's no stopping it. Here on the bridge of this invincible warship, as his famous fleet falls to ruin behind him, the poet of Deimos takes his own life. Somewhere the wind howls and the darkness whispers that I'm running out of friends, running out of light.
I mean, that was a bit melodramatic of Darrow. I mean, I wouldn't have considered Rogue a friend at this point.
Yeah.
No.
He's got lots of friends. Like, calm down, Darrow. Jesus.
The fact that he's so obsessed with, like, these two friends that he made at the Institute who have fucked him over time and time again is like, dude. Dude.
I understand. I must admit, I understand Cassius, his obsession with Cassius.
Yeah, because
more
he's
than
like
Rogue, because
not straight.
Because Darrow was not straight with him. Darrow did kill his brother.
I mean, no, he's just not straight. Let me be very clear.
You're not. That not straight.
But also, yes, he was not straight with Cassius, but also Darrow's not. Well, okay, actually, let me rephrase. I feel like Darrow is in love with Cassius. Like, I don't think Darrow would necessarily. I think he's pansexual. He is not in love with Rogue. He is in love with Cassius because he's obsessed with who Cassius is as a person and his looks. Darrow never felt that way about Rogue, right? Rogue definitely felt that way about Darrow. But
so are you telling me that in the fan fiction alternative universe of this, it's Mustang, Cassius, and Darrow?
No, Mustang wouldn't put up with that. Mustang would be like, no, get this guy out of her.
Well, but Mustang was with Cassius.
No, but she was not with him by choice, as we know.
That's what I said, the alternative universe.
No, Mustang wants nothing to do with Cassius. She was like literally just doing that to protect her family. But I mean, literally, she shoots him in the neck. He's like, you wouldn't. And she's like, bam, fuck you, bitch. In part 2. But like,
yeah.
No, Darrow is he has an obsession with Cassius that he never, like, yes, he has feelings for Rogue in like that friendship aspect, but like he is obsessed with Cassius. And I mean, I don't know, like his feelings about Rogue are just like, why, man? Like, please please stop? Like when he's like, the
Yeah.
worlds need Rocophobia, and you're just like, no, they don't. They literally need the opposite of Rocophobia. Like Cassius might have something that redeems him, but at this point, Roke is literally like, I'm gonna kill your friends, and if I can't kill your friends, I've lost the Sword Armada, so I'm going to
Kill me.
not live myself. And it's just and then whatever. Elsewhere in the battle, Mustang is still alive, yay. And Antonia straight up abandons the fleet to save her own hide, and Victra is like pissed that they're basically letting Antonia go, because let's be clear, Darrow promised Victra that she would get her revenge. Right? Like he promised her that, like, join us and you will get your revenge. And Victor's like, what the fuck, man? Thankfully, she backs down a little bit because other things happen. But he's like, I promise you, we will hunt her down. We have something else to do first. That being, trick the Moon Lords into thinking Roke is still in charge of his ship, which they just directed toward Ganymede. Because yeah, that's right. Darrow is pretending he is still fighting his way through the corridors, and that Roke is ordering this move as his last act of violence before Darrow claims his command.
Holiday reminds Darrow that there are still thousands of low colors on Ganymede, but he knows. And when she asks if he's sure he wants to do this, Darrow replies, "Want to? Since when has any of this been about what we want?"
And he turns to give the order, but Victra stops him, saying, "Share the load, darling. This one's on me."
Can we close this next section out and then just talk for a while about this shit?
Yeah. So as part 3 closes out, Darrow and Victor are standing shoulder to shoulder watching the destruction of the docks, while Sephi just stares at it in awe, because she's watched first of all, she's an Obsidian, so she's been sequestered and not seen any of this shit, right? Ever. But she has watched all these hollows of ship warfare, but up until now, her war was fought in narrow halls with men and gunfire. So for the first time, she is seeing what a warship can do.
Darrow notes that she is frightened, even as he thinks, it's a crime that the Marvel should die like this. No song, nothing but silence, and the unblinking gaze of the stars to herald the end of one of the great monuments of the Golden Age. And I hear in the back of my mind that age-old truth of darkness whispering to me, death begets death begets death.
So this moment is sadder than he wanted, I guess, somehow.
Whew.
And he turns to Sephi and he says that he would like her to rename Roke's ship. And without hesitation, she says, Tir Morga, which means morning star. Which, I don't know how you guys feel. Like, I know when we did the Gilded Wolves trilogy, when we covered the Gilded Wolves trilogy, we all bitched about how they like forced the name of each book into the into the story. I don't feel like this was forced, right?
No,
Like,
that was actually a really good use of that.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so Nick, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, wow, war crimes. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, so this gets back to where I wanted to start with the collapsing of the caverns, which is also probably a war crime if you are correct and he killed them all. I for some reason interpret that he basically didn't kill them all. They just prevented them from leaving and slowed them down so they'd miss the battle.
No, they totally died.
And I hear you that they didn't want to they needed to capture the ships and didn't want the Golds to have more ships. And here they didn't want the Golds to build more ships, and they wanted to set them back a decade or more before the Moon Lords could threaten them. And I still wonder, knowing what we know about Romulus already, whether that long term was a good move. I think it actually was not. I would argue that they would have been better off allying themselves with him on a more permanent basis and see where it goes. I know they were worried that eventually the Moon Lords would attack them, but
So
I don't know if that would have happened, and now you guarantee you have an enemy. So
but you don't. You don't guarantee that. That's the genius of what Darrow is doing.
I know what happens later, but
fair enough. I don't know anything beyond what we've read to this point.
Yeah, no spoilers, dude.
No, I know. That's why I'm. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. We have not gotten to the end of the book yet, but
in theory, what he is doing, and admittedly, like I can see the holes in this plan, but in theory, what he is doing is making it so that their shared enemy takes the blame for what happens. And
I get that.
Therefore, he can keep the alliance and also do the things like get the extra ships.
But but with both parts of this plan, this is where I think the plan breaks down in you. If only the second part had happened, I agree with you. But with the other part happening, especially when you say they all died, it just seems very suspicious from a Moon Lord point of view.
Oh yeah, there's
100%.
I don't know that there's a way that he could hide the fact that they collapse those caverns.
Right.
Other than, I don't know what happened to your leechcraft, ma'am. That said, he definitely played the long game with the Doxic Ganymede thing. Like, yeah. I'm still fighting in the halls, and Aramia's like,
yeah, no, I know that.
And Darrow's like, oh no, they're gonna destroy the docks, and it's like,
we're trying, we got to get there. Oh, damn, we didn't quite make it. We only got in the bridge after he had shot the weapons, right? I get it.
I hate what Darrow does here, but also like the him doing the whole like, oh no, what if he's trying to do this thing that I am literally like planning to do, which is like, wow, that.
Look, if you're a conspiracy theorist, this is just like Roosevelt letting the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor when he knew better.
Sure.
And it's I still, again, a different leader in the Moon Lords, I might have felt differently, but from everything we seem to know, this guy's honor is everything. And if he gave his word, I do not think he would have been the long-term enemy, and therefore he may not have been a long-term ally either, but I think he would have let you have your world, we'll have ours sort of worldview. And
yeah, that's kind of what he does, because he's just like, get the fuck out of here. You promised us our independence. I don't ever want to see you again. And
Right,
Like that's what we have. Don't
but
spoil anything for the future.
yeah, and we'll talk about it later in the end of this book and in the next book. But yeah.
But yeah, Romulus is like, get the fuck out of here. My docks are now all destroyed. I have no ships very few ships because.
So I can't help you against the sovereign anymore. I mean, that's where.
Well, but that was always the plan, right? Like, he was never supposed to help them beyond this situation. And that's what Darrow, did. I think the only thing that Romulus was really questioning at that point was the fact that his leechcraft never made it off of Thebes. Because it seems very weird that I mean, it has to have seemed very weird that they were just all chilling in these caverns, and then the second Severo and all of his people launched, all their caverns collapsed. Like, okay. Like, you can't hide that. Like,
happens in this part.
huh?
I don't think there's any conversation between.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, they do. Yes, they
do?
say that. Yes, absolutely. I would not be saying it if they didn't. Yeah, they it literally says, like, when Severo and his troops come out of their caverns in Thebes, Darrow's Reds collapse the caverns.
No. I just mean any conversation between Darrow and Romulus about the collapsing of the caverns.
Oh, I actually don't know. I don't remember, honestly. All I know is Romulus was like, get the fuck out of my airspace.
Yeah, I don't think that happens in this part.
Okay. All right. Maybe it ends. Yeah, you might be right. Shit. All right. Sorry.
I think we end with basically
Victra saying, like, share the load, darling. And
they blow it. Yeah.
Sorry. Well,
and then naming the ship Tir
Morga. Sorry. I mean, are you surprised? I feel like that's not really a spoiler that Ryan was like, get the fuck out of my airspace.
No, it's not really a surprise. I'm just saying, technically,
for podcast episode editing.
For the podcasters,
yeah,
you won't hear this conversation because it never happened.
It doesn't happen until part 4.
Wink.
Sorry about that. Well, so yeah, as part 3 closes out, they destroy the docks of Ganymede. Sephi names the ship Tir Morga, which is Morning Star. Any last thoughts before we close out this episode?
This was a really good section. I've been enjoying this whole book, but this was a really good section.
Everybody loves Golden Sun. Like, in the Red Rising fandom, everybody's like, Golden Sun is amazing. It's the perfect book, blah, blah, blah. Are you just Empire Strikes Backing it, and you think this is the better one? Because I think that's so sad.
Golden Sun pissed me off so fucking much. I literally, if we weren't doing this show, I don't think I would have continued the series after Golden Sun.
Really?
Yeah. The end of Golden Sun made me so angry.
Interesting.
It's the Society Strikes Back.
But okay, let's hypothetically say, let's say there was no Golden Sun. Let's say it was one gigantic novel. Would you have stopped reading it?
So that's a harder question for me to answer, because stopping in the middle of a book is different than stopping at the end of a book.
Well, I know.
Well, so I think the better question is, if you had read Golden Sun when it came out, not knowing when Morning Star was coming out, would you have continued?
I don't know the answer to that question. Partially because I went pretty quickly from Golden Sun to Morning Star, but I only did that because I knew we were starting Morning Star. And even though I wasn't going to be able to be on those episodes, I was like, I have to keep up with everything so that when I can rejoin, I'm still current, instead of trying to cram everything in. because I knew I wouldn't have time to do that. So like I did delay listening to, because I do audiobooks instead of reading it. I delayed listening to Morningstar for a while because I was so pissed off about the ending of Golden Sun. And I was like, okay, I have to do it. And I started and I was like, okay, all right, I can get back into this. And then like as I got in, particularly as I got into part 2 and then part 3, I was really like, okay, yes, I'm back into this. But the end of Golden Sun really fucking pissed me off.
Okay, so I'm gonna say something to you, but not until after we finish this, because
Cool.
Any last thoughts about part 3 of Morningstar? Do any of us miss Buttsucker Rocco Fabii? No, we're good.
Nope.
All right. As we close out this episode, we just want to give a shout out to our Heroes Tier patron, Tommy of the TKOK Podcast Network. Thank you so much for supporting us. Once again, I'm Tara, along with fellow hosts again, Nick and Jonathan. Don't forget that you can always hit us up at Sagas Sass on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube, or email us at sagasandsass@gmail.com with any comments or thoughts you might have. Thank you for joining us for Sagas and Sass. We will be back on Wednesday, February 15th to cover part 4 of Morningstar. Bye!
Bye!